Are you impacted directly by rising interest rates? Let's find out. In today's video, we are going to look at what's happening with individuals just like you, but also small businesses, large businesses, and how they are starting to go bankrupt. That's what we'll discuss here. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. You see, we need to look at this information and follow it along. See what's going on with student debt. Look at rising credit card debt and the expenses that are brought along with it. Once we know that information, we identify the problem, and then, of course, we learn how to thrive and prosper despite it all. Let's begin. So here we have the first thing is that workers are unhappiest that they've been in 3 years. And it could cost the global economy apparently $8.8 trillion. People are disgruntled. Workers are disgruntled. They're saying, I'm not going back to the office. I want all these things and I'm going to get what I want. Businesses are having to pay much more money for labor than they did before. There are a lot of things that are happening right now which are very unique and we hadn't seen for quite some time, right? But at the same time, we've got this issue that is going on in which people are in the most debt that they've ever been before. And as I record this video, mortgage rates in the United States are getting closer and closer and closer to 8%. This is unbelievable when you think about the average mortgage. My goodness, this is interesting. Now, here we have something else. Federal student loan payments are due for the first time since 2020. And that is an issue, of course, because the average payment is about $400. And when they're doing this, $400 here, that's $400 that's not going back into the economy. That's purely debt. Purely debt. And so we see that at this time. People are spending more and they're also the most stretched that they've been. Yes, they're spending. There's no question about that. But they're also spending on, for instance, if they go to a restaurant, they're spending more in that same restaurant they would have gone before. It's just more dollars. Okay? Go get a glass of wine at some of these restaurants and the price is, almost gone up by 50%, even some cases doubled for something very simple, one simple item on the menu. Loss of purchasing power was expected. How do I know that? Do I have some special access to some government agency? No, it's because I've studied the history, and whenever we have a time frame in which we have super easy monetary policies, that means a lot of money printing and like really low interest rates. Once we get into that environment, we have a loss of purchasing power at some point later. You don't know if it's a year, you don't know if it's 10 years, whatever the case is. When you do this, especially when you stretch that out for a long period, you get a loss of purchasing power. So that's what we're dealing with right now. The fact remains is that we've moved from about $9 trillion on the Federal Reserve's balance sheet down to right now, as I record this, about $8 trillion. They managed to get rid of $1 trillion off their balance sheet. How are they ever going to get anywhere near what they used to call normalization of that balance sheet? They can't. So we can expect more and more inflation. So what does that mean? Businesses are hurting and they're going under. So we can expect that if this continues, that you may see more layoffs. We're already seeing that somewhat right now as I record this. Yes, we did see that with the tech industry. But right now, because of what's going on with the unions, UAW, United Auto Workers, these companies, the big establishments for the car manufacturers, they're laying people off. And so we can expect that it might continue on in other places as well. Food stamps will be harder to get from October. So food stamps, that's one issue. Student loans, that's another issue. Buy now, pay later, that's on top of it as well. And of course, credit card debt at least 22% interest. My goodness. Here we go. Soft landing calls always precede a recession. Oh, that's right. And how many times have you heard soft landing? Jerome Powell said it so many times. I started reacting to the word soft landing. I thought that was my name. I heard it so many times that I was just soft landing. Yes? Is that me? No? Oh, sorry. It was repeated so often from the Fed to the bankers, the analysts, the YouTubers. Soft landing, soft landing, soft landing, team transitory, team transitory. How many times did you hear that? Don't you feel a little bit aggravated when I say that? You should be a little upset. You should ask, put it in the comments. Say, don't say that again, okay? We don't need to hear it anymore. That's the world we live in today. It's wild. The way that this information comes down, it's from a single point. People think that there's all these different voices out there. There's like, oh, I'm getting it from this news source. I'm getting it from that. There's only one source. And then it gets spread out and it gets twisted and molded. Yeah, I get that. There's only one source. Remember that. What are the big businesses doing? You may not be a big business. You may not even be a small business owner, and you may not work for a big business. But we got to understand what they're doing, because that's going to start the trend for everything else. 11 retailers are at risk of bankruptcy in 2023. And they give you some names over here in this list. You may recognize some of them. But all I got to tell you is that it's not unique to these 11 companies. Rite Aid is on here. You might see some others. These companies, let's just say it's like Sears, okay? So Sears has, let's say, 1,000 stores. Okay, they got 1,000 stores. So they have, 100 employees in each of those stores. They have this much real estate. All that real estate requires power, it requires maintenance, it requires like everything. Okay, but in order to operate that store, they don't have it paid off. It's not as if the company bought that location outright and they completely own it. No, it's leased, right? It's leased, or they have debt on that property. Depends. Okay. And so all of that is based on an interest rate. Well, when they were borrowing super low interest rates, anything's possible. The problem is with commercial real estate, you borrow at shorter time frames than you would with your typical mortgage. And so these things coming up right now are just smashing these retailers. They're doing the same in office. Retail and office are getting killed right now. Stay away from it. Don't touch that thing with a 10-foot pole unless you want a very contrarian bet to that, all right? Retail defaults set to jump this year. That's according to Moody's, and not surprised about that at all. You could see the details, but I think it's pretty clear. Yes, there's the theft, the obvious things you're seeing in the news, but at the same time, they screwed up in 2020. They ordered way too much stuff. First, they're like, oh, we don't have enough inventory. Everyone's buying, needs, 72 pairs of Lululemon pants. We better order more. And they were chartering their own ships to get these things and then putting them at ports that were not LA Long Beach. They were going to these other ports. Let's find a spot anywhere we could put it. So they were putting them there, getting that stuff to the store. Oh, and then it finally gets to the store. Oh, we don't need it anymore. You got to wonder, was it just poor planning? Was it a bunch of something's weird? Odd circumstances, no question. Small business bankruptcies surge in 2023. Look, it's not the big businesses, it's the small ones too. It's individuals as well. Like, all of this is going up as expected. During these times, you encounter higher rates, higher borrowing costs. People can't keep up. And you might ask, what can I do? Well, let's talk about some of that right now. Right? First things first, eliminate all bad debt. How can you do that? Right here, this is Compass. You can see that at themoneygps.com. You go through Compass, and one of the options in there, you see that button on the bottom left. That button there says the word Compass. You click in there. Compass is my program. It's totally free. You go in there, and one of the sections is about debt. And I help you very simply to figure out a way to get out of your bad debt circumstance. So that's the very first thing. Next, look for tax rebates, financial hardship. You basically want to reduce your expenses. All right. So that means you could be taking advantage of things that you're maybe not. And so you've got to do that. Everything that you can. You might want to look it up online. You might want to search. Things like even like TikTok might be a resource to start your search, because they mention things that might apply to 2% of people. Maybe you're one of those 2%. So look into it. All right. Because a lot of times you'll find that the accountants and things, they do their job, but they don't necessarily know every little tax loophole and all these things, okay? That's not what they're there for. You've got to know, and you could bring it up to them. You could show them this information, and they could help you with that potentially. So that's the next thing. You've got to be able to, of course, look anywhere where you can get financial hardship. So maybe you owe some debt somewhere. Understand financial hardship. A lot of these companies, your service providers and everything, contact them. Talk about financial hardship. If you can prove that, a lot of times they are willing to give you a break. So take advantage when you can. All right. And then start a small business. Look for businesses in demand, these things. A lot of them, despite the conditions, they are in demand. People do more repairs now than they would have before. They would have just thrown it away. Now they want to do more repairs. They want to stretch their dollar a little bit more. There's a million different businesses that apply to that. Look at what happened during 2020. Oh, we can't go on vacation. We're going to put a pool in the backyard. We can't go out and spend money out there. We're going to spend it on our house. We're going to do renovations. So there's lots of things that you can do right now to take advantage of the circumstances. Most businesses, the big businesses especially, will contract during these times. They weather the storm. They contract. They'll hibernate inside, indoors, in the caves. They hibernate like a bear, and then they wait for it all to be safe, and then they come out when everything's all safe. You, the individual, you're going to seek it out as an opportunity. You're going to swoop in, and you're going to take advantage of that. I hope that you do. TheMoneyGPS.com. Go through Compass, get your debt circumstance, and there's many different sections in Compass, but the debt one is what we're talking about here today. Totally free, TheMoneyGPS.com. And of course, the comment of the day. Thank you for your comment. Talk to a friend about the coming CBDC and how, after losing everything in the coming collapse and banks taking everything Americans own, like savings, retirement, brokerage accounts, we will thank the government for making people whole by issuing their CBDC as a savior replacement currency. He's a big saver, and he got mad and said he can't live in conspiracy theories. Well, let me tell you, the government is telling us in many cases that the CBDC is coming. Look at what China's doing. Look at what Brazil's doing. And what do they all have? What have they all said? All of them have said we want the ability to control the flow of money. We want to be able to turn it on and turn it off. They've all said this. They want the interconnectedness of governments around the world. They want to be able to control the money supply, and they already do, but they want an advanced level of that, and they're pushing for it. So they need, though, to get something as big as a CBDC to be brought out there, they need a crisis. And then in a crisis, people will beg for it. You got to understand how it works. Crisis first, and then the solution provided. That's my video for today. Did you appreciate it? If you did, simply hit that thumbs up button. By doing so, you're literally notifying other people out there that this was some good, informative stuff. So I hope you appreciate what we did. We looked at what the problem, we had some problem awareness, and then we were saying, okay, what does it actually mean? Okay, good stuff. And then we looked at how to thrive, how to prosper during these most difficult times. That's what all the formula for all my videos, and we're going to get even deeper on future ones. I hope that you'll join me for that. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.